Hello? Is anyone there? Are there any quests to do at all? What's going on?
We're in the Endgame now.
Ladies, gentlemen, and monsters of all ages, how are you all doing on this fine day, whatever day of the week it is for you? Please say it out loud. Yeah, I know I can't hear you, but I care, so please pause the video for the length of the time that it takes to tell me about your day, and then unpause when you are finished. Thank you. All right, now that you've resumed, I'm proud of you, no matter how your day was, because you are a good person. Oh, right, Monster Hunter. For a while, many hunters have been talking about the state of Monster Hunter Rise as a whole, the way that it stood as a complete game upon its initial release, and especially now after Title Update 3.0. There has been a lot of discussion and comparison between Monster Hunter games, and honestly, I have to say, why can't we just all enjoy all of the Monster Hunter games? The main thing about Rise is that it isn't finished as far as having a G-Rank or Master Rank expansion. Obviously, the majority of players of the Monster Hunter franchise started with Monster Hunter World. I was one of them. However, I played a couple of previous games in the series after the fact. I have heard a ton of people calling Rise out as being surprisingly light on content. The end game is non-existent, all of that types of stuff. With that in mind, let's make some legitimate comparisons and open a dialogue in relation to Monster Hunter World. A lot of people seem to be comparing Rise to Iceborne for some reason, which is really totally off, forgetting that Rise is a non-G-Rank Master Rank game. It's a base game, and it should be treated as such and compared as such. To start, let's clarify what the proper end game of Rise is. There is the limited grind and the unlimited grind. Limited meaning things like lazarite jewels to make the decorations that you want, because once you get the amount of lazarite that you need to make those decorations, you just don't need more lazarite. It's limited, and you can get it within a relatively quick period of time as long as you put your time into it and actually dedicate yourself to it. The unlimited grind is the talisman melding. If you want to be technical, there is a limit to this. There is a physically best possible talisman ever that could exist, but the chances of you ever receiving it over thousands and thousands of hours of playtime are a bit doo-doo. As a result, for 99.9999999% of players, this grind is unlimited. You'll never reach the end. How do you get the high tier melding jewels? Well, from fighting higher tier monsters, with extra loads being given for fighting the Apex monsters on their own map quest instead of in the Rampage, as a nice incentive to fight them there as well. For most players, you probably spent a little while either fighting Elder Dragons or doing these quests to complete your build to the place that you want it to be. That's how you get the decorations. For the unlimited grind, the melding, well, that is where Rise got very interesting. This game offers you freedom. You can hunt pretty much any of the relatively strong creatures that are in the game, and they will drop enough materials in the one hunt to run a meld, meaning that the hunt loop to keep melding and keep gambling away points and time for that small upgrade is basically just hunt what you want to hunt. As with everything in video games, people have found and will continue to find particularly efficient ways of doing it. But in my opinion, those ways of farming melds in Rise are a great way to suck the fun out of playing the game, because the developers went out of their way to create a system that is essentially allowing us to hunt anything while still getting our grind on in the background. That is how I see the end game of Monster Hunter Rise. As a result, for me, I have found it quite satisfying. Full transparency, my playtime has absolutely dropped off in the more recent weeks. I played like a madman the first 2 months, and at this point, I've just settled down a bit. Awkwardly, most of my playtime was before HR was even unlocked, thus my ridiculous time played to HR discrepancy. I have thoroughly enjoyed Rise, in large part because I'm just absolutely in love with the combat and the pace of just the gameplay as a whole within this game. But I feel like this endgame was a fantastic vessel for that gameplay, letting you enjoy that combat against whatever monster that you want to fight at the time. However, it is also to a certain extent lacking direction. For the players, that is. If you take someone to an open field and say, do whatever you want, I bet most of the time the person would respond, well, what do you want me to do? After all, you brought me to the field. The freedom is beautiful, but it also, to some people, gives the impression that there's just nothing to do. The balance is hard. Talismans in Rise are important, but they aren't so important that it's worth shoving your face into a wall until you get a perfect one. People who really don't care about that low level of power increase see that as being a non-existent endgame. People who love that kind of incremental power increase and crave it too hard will take the most efficient farming methods and not get the advantage of the freedom of the system. As a result, I feel like a lot of people on both extremes of this spectrum have been left really unhappy with Rise's endgame, and in an awkward turn of events, the reason might actually be because of the freedom that it provides. I've given you my opinions on Rise itself, I have stated a number of facts, and made a few inferences from my time looking over the community and what I've seen you guys saying to each other. Take in that information, compare it with your own thoughts on the matter, and come to your own conclusions, right? I'm not telling you how to think. Okay, now let's get to the comparison part, Monster Hunter World. First off, it's worth noting that home console Monster Hunter games and portable Monster Hunter games do often have a lot of fundamental differences in the content that they have, but let's just ignore that really legitimate excuse for the sake of continuing this discussion in a way that relates to the most players. We'll start by talking about the base system of investigations, as it all stems outward from that. From picking up monster tracks, you would, through an RNG system, gain a somewhat randomly generated quest to hunt one or more monsters, a range of rewards, variable feints, variable quest timer, and you could only accept the quest a certain number of times before it would disappear. Tempered investigations were the proper endgame and made each monster within the quest that was tempered deal a fair amount more damage than their normal counterparts. Now let's talk about the limited and unlimited grind, the same way that we did with Rise. The limited grind, I would say it was the weapon augmentation stones. Sorry, I know, hearing those words brings me a lot of pain too. These unlocked things like the health augment that really changed the way that we played the game, making us greedy little shits who would choose to attack more than healing and after being hit. It was a fun little system, but there was a good amount of RNG attached to the grind, and your best bet of getting the good ones was to farm tempered Elder Dragon investigations, which left you a choice of only a handful of monsters to fight at most, if you wanted to farm those. But I want to talk about the unlimited grind before diving back into that specific point. The unlimited grind was arguably decorations. Your chances of having every decoration in Monster Hunter World that you wanted are far, far higher than having the perfect God roll talisman in Monster Hunter Rise. That's just a fact. However, they also matter a lot more for your builds on an individual level. Being able to fit one extra rank of attack each time you find one attack decoration can make a big difference, as opposed to the all or nothing of having the perfect talisman. I sort of understand that as well. But not having enough attack decorations to fill in your 1 slots on your armor because they only required 1 slots was really a big sadness. Not to mention any builds that needed niche but rare skills like Bowcharge Plus decorations or artillery decorations. But by the end of base World's life cycle, I think I had 80 to 90% of the decorations that I really needed, that I really used in builds, you know, before they put level 4 slots in Iceborne. So while it was also a big old pile of RNG, it was arguably more achievable RNG than Rise has. You got these decorations as random rolls from tempered investigation rewards, along with some quest rewards on occasion, but mostly tempered investigations. The more boxes, the more chances at a good decoration. Ideally, when hunting for just decorations, people would specifically do their best tier 2 investigation, meaning the level just below Elder Dragon. What's interesting here is technically the most efficient method of farming these was each individual player's best rewarding investigation of the appropriate tier. So once you ran out of charges on your amazing perfect Valhazak investigation, for example, your best one might be Nergigante now. It rotates. So even if you are going the hyper efficient route, you are fighting different monsters. Whether you are hunting decorations or augmentation stones, your target will continue shifting as you continue your grind. Even the players who don't care massively about the efficiency get these and just have another avenue to fight monsters that they enjoy and maps that they maybe weren't on in the regular quests. And hey, they do increase damage too, so there's a bit of extra challenge if you just want the extra gameplay challenge. It was an endgame that truly catered to multiple levels of players. The hard grinders, the people who just play for the sake of playing, and lots of people in between. It wasn't freedom quite in the way that Rise is, but it was rotating direction. I've heard more and more talk in the Monster Hunter community that Rise lacks content in relation to a game like World. I would like to present to you a different opinion, that what it lacks is not content, but direction. Yes, it would be nice if the Apex monsters had armor to farm, but if you had tempered investigations to hunt them to get more talismans per quest than just regularly hunting, would you necessarily have the same misgivings? They'd be giving you the direction, they'd be telling you the rewards that you could get for hunting them. You see what I'm saying? The fact that every monster sort of has a similar value towards our unlimited grind makes it feel for a lot of people like a lot of the monsters have no value. Yes, monster damage in Rise is actually sort of high compared to what they were doing to us in base World. I would say, like Crimson Glow Valstrax as an example, has damage more equivalent to a Monster Hunter World tempered Elder Dragon than just a base Elder Dragon. However, on the other side of things, every single quest in Rise has a 50-minute timer and a 3 feint limit. I think this plays heavily into people saying that Rise is just easier than World. Yes, there are definitely some more difficult challenges existing in World, but what I've realized with hindsight is that the limited feints and sometimes even down to 15-minute timers in Monster Hunter World really added pressure to the situation, even against a monster that you are already comfortable with. Obviously, we don't quite have an extreme behemoth anywhere in Rise or anything like that, but I do think that this factor of investigations had a larger impact on the more middle-level quests and in affecting people's memory of the whole situation. I guess as a whole, what I'm trying to say is sort of difficult to focus into concise phrasing. In World, it felt like there was this pressure to hunt a certain way, to do certain quests over others, and it would change so it didn't get stale, but it would keep going. It would keep telling you what you should do, to hunt one specific reward, one specific way. Some people love that sense of direction, and some people feel a bit claustrophobic about it. In Rise, it's sort of the opposite. The amount of freedom in the endgame farming has resulted in those claustrophobic people spreading their wings, and the people who lost their in-game direction are sort of grabbing at their legs as they take flight, trying to work out where their enjoyment is coming from. There are legitimate criticisms to make about Rise. They exist. I have leveled a few over the last few months myself, even though I do love the game. Sometimes people go past legitimate criticism, though, and get really rude and insultive towards developers or other members of the community, and I think what's important to remember when faced with people who are doing that is what I just said. These are people who, in essence, love Monster Hunter in their own way. They're just trying to work out why you are able to love this monster hunting game more than they are. Of course, they want to enjoy it. They love the series. Rise's endgame is just fundamentally different than what the last game or the game before that or the game before that has been. And that's the way that the games are. Their endgames are different from one to the next. Some will gel with you better than others, and different people will like some better than others as well. I feel like whether you're aware of these differences or not, these are things that have been in the back of people's heads, affecting the way that they think about Monster Hunter Rise. I think this may be part of what is picking away at some people struggling to enjoy this game as much as they wish that they could. So let's try to enjoy things together here. Let's talk about what we enjoy and let others enjoy what they enjoy without stepping on it. And that goes to both sides of the argument. Let's all just chill and have a nice, calm discussion and wait to see what Capcom gives us next. Alright everyone, I've been Cotton Dinosaur, and this has been a discussion on the endgame of Monster Hunter Rise and how it compares to Monster Hunter World. Like if you liked the video, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet. Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.